Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart. Glad to have you here today. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into the conversation of moderation, the 80-20 rule in cheat days. And are these the cure or are they the curse? So when we look at these three things, we'll go deep into these today. Are these the things? Is moderation part of the key to helping us cure our bodies? Are cheat days part of the actual process of curing our bodies? Are going in 80% of the way, in the 80-20 rule? Are these part of the cures or are they the actual curse? All right, with that being said, first I wanted to say thank you all for being here today. Continuing to support the Health Made Simple Show. Without you, we can't do it. And your support, your continuous sharing things out, your continuous 5-star ratings on wherever you are listening to your favorite podcast here today. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out. Keep spreading love. We appreciate it. Give us an opportunity, quite frankly, to meet more people, serve more people, help more people. So keep doing your thing. All right, let's get into this topic. It's a great conversation. I'm going to tell you first where it came from. I just had an opportunity. I was on my speaking tour and just visited, oh boy, where was I? I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And while we were there, met a great group of doctors who come out. And for guys, what it's worth, these men and women that come out, in case any of them are listening here today, which I hope some of them are, they come out and spend 8-9 hours on a Saturday. And also football season is here, so that I think that doubles down to their commitment here. 8-9 hours to be with me to just learn. They don't have to. They have practices. They have families. They have opportunities to go ahead and just keep doing what they're doing. Yet they're sitting in a hotel room with me, leveling up, quite frankly. And the primary, kind of emphasis of the day is how to heal the gut, which is no easy task. Specifically things like leaky gut and Crohn's disease and IBS and all SIBO and all of the different things that go along with gut health. And as many of you know, I'm a big advocate of when you change your gut status, you change your life. There's probably no other one thing that you can do with your health that will move the needle as much as healing up your gut. And who do I think has a gut issue? Everybody. Every single one of us has some level of a gut issue. That's not for today's podcast, but nonetheless. So we're in the room. We're talking about gut health all day long. And we're also talking about adrenal dysfunction, really adrenal fatigue. And it's not uncommon that those two kind of go together. You have long-standing gut issues. Eventually, they will wear out the body. It'll act as a stressor to the body. And then you start to experience things like adrenal dysfunction, adrenal fatigue, and it's a double whammy. With that being said, we end up having to get down to the basics. Lifestyle play a critical role because when we talk about gut health and adrenal health and whatnot, how much energy a person has from day to day, there are no magic drugs for this, folks. There's no magic pill. So that makes it a little bit more challenging because there's no quick fixes. The fix is the process, the journey of getting back to health, which inevitably means we're going to talk about things like diet and the role of lifestyle and the role of nutrition, which then leads us into, so I map it out, saying, listen, this is what we can do. We got to get rid of all the bad guys. If you want to be healthy, if you're challenged with something in your life, whether it's you think your hormones are out of balance, or you have brain fog, you have a skin condition, or maybe you're type 2 diabetic, or you have some cardiovascular disease, you have high blood pressure, you have cholesterol issues, you name it. You got any of those things, autoimmune conditions, all of those fall under the umbrella of you've got to change your lifestyle. You've got to make a lifestyle that serves you, which means we have to address the diet. So we do that in two ways. We stop the bad guys from coming in. This is a must. And then we improve what's coming in, means we put the good guys in. So stop the crap, bring in the good. So this conversation typically goes along and everyone's kind of nod their heads and kind of in agreement. And I think we all would. And I have the conversation where pretty much all of these diets out there that we talk about, the keto and carnivore diets and vegetarian diets and Mediterranean diets and vegan diets, that they all work. The reason they work is because they're elimination diets. I mean, they all stop the bad guys from coming in. They all have some limitations, but they all have some upside as well. So we map it out and I give them the world's best diet. I know that sounds like a pretty bold statement to make it. I make it anyways and say the world's best diet for all of us is what's called the God's Garden diet, which means it comes from a root plant tree, walks in the garden, swims in the sea, eat it. Which means we should be eating whole foods. So we go down, and I'm sharing this for a reason. So we go down this road for a little bit, And it just makes common sense. It makes logical sense that we should be putting into our bodies what they were built for. And those are whole foods, foods with one ingredient. And I don't think anyone argues that. Yet eventually what happens is, well, doc, don't you think moderation is okay? Don't you think that, yeah, like we should just, do the best that we can, 80-20 rule, maybe that applies here? Or what do you think about some cheat days? You got to live a little bit. And that's why I'm doing this podcast today. So I want to address those things because I think they're important. I think they're misinterpreted. And I think that sometimes we have to speak the truth, even when it's not a popular opinion. So with that being said, let's bring up this. So here's what's fascinating. During my presentation that I give to the doctors, I bring up a slide that I used to use. It was from one of my presentations that I gave way back in the day, back in 2016. So what is that? That's 8 years ago. In that presentation, I talked about God's garden. I talked about nutrition. I also have a slide that pop up the slide and it says 80-20, talking about the 80-20 rule when it comes to nutrition. So here's the way it is, folks. Here's some truth for you. I used to promote and teach people that having an 80-20 rule when it comes to diet and nutrition, 80% of the time, do your absolute best. 20% of the time, don't worry about it. I used to teach that was an acceptable method in getting your body healthy. Truth is, it is not. The 80-20 rule does not apply for health. So I'm sharing this for a couple of reasons. One, just for all of us out there, it's okay to sometimes change our mind. That's what experience gives us. That's what living and experiencing things and experimenting with different things gives us. For long periods of time, I've abided by the 80-20 rule because that's quite frankly what I was taught. You don't have to go for perfection. And this is where things get a little tricky. So we hear every day, it's not about perfection. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is a bad statement to say because the truth is, it is about perfection. It is about, so pump the brakes here. Do not, I'm going to say this in two kind of ways. One, I don't want this to get into your head and if you don't have perfection, you fail. That is not the idea. The goal is perfection. Why wouldn't it be? Think about this on any level in your life. Do you think the idea or the goal for me as a husband to be a perfect husband, that should be the goal? I should never say, well, man, 90% of the time I'm going to be a great husband and 10% of the time I'm going to be awful. I'm going to blank. I don't even want to say things like beat on my wife, cheat on my wife. No, 90% of the time is not acceptable goal. 100% of the time has to be the goal. Here's my analogy. So the 80-20 rule is unacceptable when it comes to health. And I had to eat my own words because I used to teach this. And the reason I eat my own words is because I realized that for myself and my clients, it wasn't cutting it. 20% of the time, putting poisons into the human body will not get you healthy. If you have no health issues whatsoever and you want to roll with it, fine. I will tell you this, it will catch up to you. You cannot poison the human body 20% of the time and think that you're going to end up on top. It doesn't work that way. So if you're dealing with things, you're dealing with autoimmune conditions, you're dealing with hormone imbalances, all of these are issues on the inside of the body because of what we're putting into them. So the 80-20 rule does not work. So moderation is kind of bullshit. And I say that for a couple of reasons. Healthy people that have put patterns and habits or maybe policies or strategies into their life that are gaining them momentum when it comes to their health. And remember, health is a relentless pursuit, nonstop, relentless pursuit of being healthier, to be healthy, because it's an uphill battle. And there's a lot of truth when I say these words, that being healthy is going to be a bit uncomfortable. It's going to be a bit inconvenient, and almost always there's going to be the next level of being unfamiliar. So uncomfortable, inconvenient, and unfamiliar when it comes to being healthy. That means things like the 80-20 rule and moderation really have no place. And when I think of moderation, I think moderation, if you're doing something 3-4 times a year, like you're having alcohol 3-4 times a year, you're so in a celebratory mode or something like that, that's moderation. Today's goal, today's conversation of moderation is I didn't get drunk tonight. So the only people, you follow me here, they didn't get drunk, they just had a couple cocktails. That's moderation to most people. or food. They didn't get overly stuffed. They just had a couple bites of cake or some other type of sugar or candy or something like that. The challenge here is the phrase is not used by the healthy people. And I know that firsthand because when I work with people, I recognize no one's looking for moderation. Once you understand that to move the needle when it comes to health, things like moderation and the 80-20 rule, there's nowhere to play for that. I don't want you to think that anything shy of perfection is failure, but the target has to be failure. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a baseball player and you get up to bat. You think your goal is to 80% of the time do your best? No, the goal is every single time you get to the plate is to get a hit, maybe even a home run. You never go to the plate saying, I'm going to strike out. That would be silly. That would be stupid because that wouldn't serve anybody. Same thing with a cheat day. If we intentionally are putting poisons into the body, they're going to have an adverse effect. They're not going to move the needle forward. So in the conversation, are they the cure or the curse? I think they're the curse because we've accepted, we've kind of softened up our position on health. And why have we softened it up? Quite frankly, I'm going to go back to what I used to teach in the 80-20 rule. And I'll explain to you part of the reason why doctors do not have the conversation that I'm having with you right now. One of the reasons is this, is that one, it is the doctor themselves. The reason we're not telling patients that, listen, you got to clean up your diet. There's no room for alcohol. There's no room for cake on the weekends or your brother's birthday, your dad's birthday, your mom's birthday, your kid's birthday. You follow me? There's too many moderations. There's too many moments. The reason there's no room for a cheat day is because you're not going to get healthy that way. And I believe that the doctors aren't teaching it that way for one of two reasons. Usually it's a little bit of both. One, they haven't done it themselves. They haven't hunkered down and understood the changes that happen when you don't have those in play. So maybe they have health issues, maybe they don't, but they haven't cut it out those other things. They haven't put the right foods into their body over extended periods of time and understand how difficult that is. And I'm telling you right now, it's very uncomfortable to get your diet clean on a regular basis. But here's the benefit. Just like I'm going to tell you, it's very uncomfortable to work out. It's very uncomfortable to get into a cold plunge. It's very uncomfortable to say the things that are difficult to say in life. Yet the outcome is what we really should be looking at. That when you do eat good for long periods of time, when you do exercise regularly, when you do things like a cold plunge or a sauna, or you say what's on your mind, you know what happens after that? Everything gets better. Everything gets better. So I think the doctors right now, culturally across the board, for two reasons, are not telling patients exactly what they need to hear. One, they're not doing it themselves. They are not walking their own talk, so they can't sit there and say exactly, you need to clean up your diet, and there's no room. Where the goal is perfection. So I think doctors are doing two things. One, they're avoiding that topic, one, because they haven't walked their own talk. And the second part, I believe, is that they want to be liked. And as doctors, for all of you listening, the doctors and clinicians listening to me right now, I understand that we want to be liked. We want our patients to think that we're cool and that we like us and we're really kind of hip and cool, whatever it may be. That's not us serving people. We have to be the ones that are leading the way and say, listen, if you want to heal, you're going to have to hunker down. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It's going to be a little bit inconvenient, and it's going to be unfamiliar at times. And the beauty is, as you go through those, you will start to recognize the benefits and massive, massive, massive changes in your life. You're going to start to feel better, think better, act better, have more energy, more mental clarity. Your hormones balance. You'll lose weight. All of these things happen when we make that commitment to going all in. So do I think perfection is the goal? I do. But at the same time, I'm telling you that I don't believe we should set a standard of its failure if we don't hit it. A little side story here. So I'm originally from Connecticut, and in Connecticut, not many people have guns. Yeah, I'm going to talk about guns for a moment. Then I moved to the South, and guess what? If you're listening to this from the South, you're like, oh, well, everyone in the South has guns. It's part of the culture. It's kind of neat. So eventually, after living here for the last 30 years, a year or two ago, I started getting guns. And apparently that's how it works. You just start getting them and you keep on getting them. Anyways, so I decided if I have a gun, I got to practice with my gun, get to learn how to use it regularly. So I shoot every Sunday. I get an opportunity to go out to my shooting range and I practice. So I put up these little targets and they have these little bullseyes on them. And guess what I try to hit every single time? The bullseye. I go for perfection every single time. Guess what the reality is? Do I hit it every time? No. Frankly, I barely ever hit it, but nonetheless, I'm getting closer and closer. But the goal every single time is the bullseye. Do I get mad at myself for missing? No. What does that look like in real life when it comes to diet, nutrition, life, and lifestyle? Listen, I travel a lot. When I'm home, it's very easy for me to essentially eat organic all the time. I have an organic cafe, which is pretty cool. So most of the food, 95, 100% of the time, I get to put organic food in my body. Is it that way when I travel? No. Is it my target? Am I looking for organic food? Yes. Quite frankly, I rarely have it. So that's a good example. The intention is 100% organic, 100% of the time. That's the goal, perfection. Am I intentionally, while I travel, going to go out and intentionally all of a sudden start eating French fries and donuts while I'm on the road? No, because I know there's no room for that in my journey of wanting to be healthy. Let's talk alcohol for a moment. That's where the key, I think the word moderation is mostly used around alcohol. Do I think there's any level or moderate level of alcohol that is acceptable for the human body? And I would just tell you, from as a healthcare provider, someone who's committed their lives to understanding the systems, organs, and glands of the human body, understanding that no, there's no level of ethanol, and that is what all alcohol is. There's no level of poison that is better for your body. We may show studies that some blue zones over here that they do drink a little bit of alcohol and that's part of their habits. And listen, there's way more things, but it is not making them better. I promise you, not the ethanol. And then you may argue, well, doc, isn't there some alcohols are better? I hear some people on TikTok and social media say, well, if you're going to drink tequila or drink just clean wine. Listen, all alcohol is ethanol, all of it. Whether it's tequila or wine or beer, it's all ethanol, which means it's all a poison to the body. It all damages cells, period. So do I think that there's an acceptable level, a good time to have a cheat day? Do I think there's a moderate level of alcohol that we should acceptably put into our body? No, I don't. Do I think that's going to be inconvenient for some people? Yes. But if you want to seek the truth and understand that if you do these things, they may derail you. I've talked many times, but just say, listen, let's just say an example. We're trying to get gluten out of our life. Why? Pro-inflammatory. If you haven't gotten out of your life for a long period of time, you may never understand what happens when you do get it out. So gluten by itself can provoke an inflammatory process. One night of gluten. I'm talking about one night of gluten and beer provoke an inflammatory process for anywhere from 30 to 100 days. So if you haven't really taken gluten out of your life, like hardcore, gone for perfection, at least 30 days, preferably 100, you may never actually discover what the benefits are. So the goal here is going to be that we don't use the phrases of, every now and then, it just, you just kind of got to live a little bit. It's all in moderation. No, that's not what people who have achieved a certain level of health, have climbed themselves out of the hole. And I'm one of those people. I've climbed myself out of a hole. I promise you, I do not speak this from a high horse saying, this is better than that. The only reason I can say it from this position and this kind of podium is as a result of having health that I didn't want. Being the individual who's absolutely so tired, I didn't want to get out of bed every day. Having gut disturbances, gut bloating, SIBO, leaky gut, Crohn's disease, all of it. And now being on the other side of it, I want none of it. And I know that there's no level of moderation of putting poisons in my body that keeps me the best version of me. And I know that's true for you as well. So some of this might sit a little bit disturbingly, being like, oh, damn, does that mean I really have to hunker down to be the best version of myself? And the answer is yes. And I will tell you what, you are 100% worth it. You are worth all the effort, all the anguish, all the discomfort, everything you might have to be and to do to experience the best version of yourself. And I promise you, when you get there, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about today. All right. With that being said, thanks for being here. Thanks for spending some time with me again on the Health Made Simple show. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out. Keep spreading love. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until then, make sure you take care, deliberate attention and action toward your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.